There are quite a few racings on the market these days. You have everything from Assetto Corsa to ACC to Automobilista 2. But what I haven't seen is somebody rank all of these and see which one is the best. So that's exactly what I'll be doing for you today. So let's get into it. And as you can see, we have quite a few games. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And what you might think is, oh, where is, for example, Need for Speed? Oh, where is the old games? Where is, yeah, other games? But what I'm saying is, to that is, one, I haven't played them because I'm a bit too young and I haven't had a computer for so long. And what's it called? Yeah, I'll have to have heard of them or seen videos of them and not have played them because certain games I have not played. But also I will, they are what I count people actually drive and would class as a modern racing. Well, there's a few exceptions, but let's get into it again. And if you might be able to see, you have the lists. You have main sim, you have could be main, you have would play, could buy, and then the worst, do not touch. And I don't know if this has done all of them in, or it's probably done them in letters due to the file names. So let's start with Assetto Corsa Competizione, and let us talk about it if you don't know about it. It's mainly a GT3 sim, but also has other, what's it called, class cups, I think they're called, but that's what's it called when you have one type of car, like Porsche Carrera Cup, where all drive Carrera GTA 3S, or what they might be called. You have BMW Cup, I think, in the game too, but as I said, you have GT4s. They will be receiving GT2s next year, which are quicker with less downforce. But then you also have, yeah, those cars, and then in circuits it doesn't have a ton of circuits, but still a decent amount. So I would put this in could be main. Now why is that? Because it's a very good game. I have a few issues with it. One is the force feedback is not the best because you don't fully feel the rear stepping out. And also for me, if I come here, sit in this simulator I want to drive, I wouldn't choose Assetto Corsa Competizione due to it not only having GT cars. So if I want to, let's say, drive Formula 1 cars, I can't do that in that game. But a game which I can do that in is Assetto Corsa, and I have some issues. Well, let's start with my positives of it. Positives, and I might just say it's very cheap for generally. If you're speaking of it, I think it's 40 euros in Europe and Sweden on Steam. And then you can obviously, for the Ultimate Edition, I think the base game is 200 crowns to 20 euros. And then obviously you have when it's like Black Friday and things, you also can get it for much cheaper, which is good. And it's, I think the most popular of this will be MGs, I will think. But Assetto Corsa, why is that so popular after being released 8 years ago? Well, you can basically mod anything you want in the desert. You can have cars, you can have tracks, you can have planes I've seen now, and probably boats in the future. We'll see what happens. But then you also, yeah, as I said, circuits, there are only a few, and graphics too. But I have a few things with it, that all of these graphic settings and everything, I've never fully understood and never fully put time into it, because in the base game, Assetto Corsa doesn't look so well, and with all of these modifications I know you can make it better, but I've tried to do it different times, but I've never made it look top, let us say. And the handling model and force feedback is not my favorite, but obviously force feedback and car handling and everything, all of that is subject to your own opinion, but certain things we know are a bit flawed. But in Assetto Corsa, I would put it, maybe this is a bit controversial, but I would say would play, because it's a very high potential with all with everything, but it's a bit hard because you have to add everything and then to fine tune and everything, and then mods can be good or bad. So it's like you have everything, but you don't know. It's very hard to get it perfect, I should say. But now we go into what I would say is currently my main sim, Automobilista 2. And if we start talking about it, is that, what's it called? It uses the Madness engine from Project Cars 2, which I don't have here due to it not being purchasable because everything, the rights have gone. And then what I think about that is, yeah, it's by Ryza, I think it's called, but in Brazil. And they made Automobilista 1, which is based on the R Factor 1 engine, and oftenly called, what's it called, R Factor 1.5 due to it pushing everything to the limit. And some issues which have been with Automobilista 2 is that a lot of people have, it was released in 2020 and a lot of people knew that the Madness engine was good due to Project Cars 2, but that had a few problems. And then 1 year went past, everybody was saying, oh, it's decent, so well, it needs a ton of improvements, people saying. And then this year, it was alright, I would say. A few months ago, I would put it in would play. But then they released update 1.4 and everything changed. Due to the FFB became a lot better, and I would say the main handling model also became a lot better, because I like to, as I said, jump in and play. So certain games are not the best for me. I don't do a ton of races. I mainly do a bit of hot lapping currently because I don't have anyone to be with. Sad. But let's get back to it. So I would say it's very good, and if you have seen overtake videos and everything, they have been speaking of Ryza. They have all the time in the world. The Madness engine, what's it called, has really good graphics, much better than older games. And if older games with their graphics can be, what is it now, like 14 years old with our racing and race room, so graphics is what's it called, not the most important, but driving physics, I would say, it will become very good. And a lot of people, from what I've read, is that they believe that it might actually become the best due to the Madness engine, because you can drive on all surfaces it simulates, and Assetto Corsa doesn't do it. So if they can bring in, if car mods become more of a thing, track mods won't become a thing, I think, and nobody has figured it out. So if somebody does, it would be quite interesting. But otherwise, I would say Assetto Automobilista 2 is my absolute favorite. And if you also like it, go into the forums, because I'm quite active there. But now we come into BeamNG. So if you don't know BeamNG, I don't know who produced it. I just know that it's one of the most realistic crash physics games, and Automobilista 2 is trying to become a bit of that, from what I've seen, but not from what I've heard from them. But yeah, so BeamNG is mostly known for its crash physics, but also if you've seen like No Call Sign and Ermin Hamidovic, or Ermin Ham Sandwich as it's like to be called, you have seen it a ton that it's very good crash physics, but also their driving physics has gotten a lot better, and you can modify cars, and it looks very interesting. And it's also really, what's it called, you can play around with automation, so you can make cars in the game, and the graphics look alright, but I would only put it in could be made. And that's because I've not fully, what's it called, the graphics aren't top on Automobilista 2 levels, I shall say, but it still simulates different surfaces, so it would be really good. But yeah, I think this game is not super expensive. I think it's roughly the same as Assetto Corsa. But if we go back to Automobilista 2, it's a bit on the pricey side for the actual game. But I think most of these games, I think Automobilista 2 does, that depending on where you live, it could be cheaper, more expensive. And obviously there are codes you can buy, but I wouldn't buy those. So at the Automobilista 2, I think the base game is like 440 euros, I should say. 30 euros. But then if you want all the content with the season pass, it costs 80 euros or 60 during sale. So I obviously bought that during sale, and I would say it's still worth every penny. And then BeamNG obviously I've talked about. And now we have a game which you can't fully read, but it's I would say the newest game on here. Well, released game. I would say Dirt. It's Dakar Dirt Rally or Dakar Racing. So if you don't know Dakar, it used to be called the Paris Dakar, where they went from Paris, as you might hear, went down through the countries. So they went through to Russia, sort of that area, Ukraine, then went down via Egypt and Saudi Arabia, and then they went to Dakar in Senegal, I think it is. But due to bandits and pirates and politics, they had to stop doing that, and now they only drive in Saudi Arabia, which is where Dakar Dirt Rally or Dirt Racing is based. So if we look at the comments coming about the game currently, and there's mostly saying that it's a good game, good potential, but a ton of features are not there yet. Like free roam of 20,000 square kilometers, I think that is. They have, and then you will have a livery edit and things afterwards. So it's a very decent, but the few gripes I have with it, it's more, I would say, on the middle price of expense. I think it's like 60 euros for the most expensive, but on Epic Games it will be released in a few weeks, so we'll see what happens there. But also it has had a few performance issues. But if Dakar Desert Rally implement sort of better optimization, then they will be very good. So I would put it in good buy, because not all the features are there yet, and I'm interested to buy it, but I don't think I will be having it on the same level as Assetto Corsa. And this is just the thing. If you no, that thing, what's it called? I have a gripe with most games, not Assetto Corsa Competizione. I think it's, yeah, even Assetto Corsa it is, and that's the, what's it called? DLSS and FSR, and if you don't know what this is, it's upscaling to game performance but still keep the quality. And I would say if you're developing a game currently, you need at least one of those one of them to be implemented into your game to be very good. And that's where certain games like Automobilista 2 struggle with, because if you want to have, they're having problems with during rain and winter, during rain they had problems with snow, I heard, and they have problems with headlights during night. So they should optimizations and DLSS and FSR spoken, but yeah, Dakar Rally dead. But now we come to Dirt Rally 2.0, and I'm just going to put this here because I've driven it. It's made by Codemasters and it has a ton of stages, just basically copies with not official names. We're in the WRC, in the World Rally Championship, yeah, WRC. So it's basically that game with different physics, and in my opinion it doesn't have the best ones for me. Everybody likes saying, oh, not the most realistic, not the most realistic. But most of the people who have said this, I don't know if they've actually driven any of the cars they say in the games are unrealistic. So we don't know about that. But in my opinion, Dirt Rally 2.0 with default setup, what's it called, on the cars, is way too understeery and should, what's it called, yeah, it could buy because it's not for me. Then F122. So I just want to speak to you about this because F1 2017 was the first game which brought me into sim racing, if you want to call it, but I would say more it's a more arcadey game. But it has been very decent for me. It helped me learn quite a lot about handling and actually becoming good. But since it got bought by EA, what has happened? Well, we thought everybody F122, oh, it might be a big change, we might have a lot of different things. No, we got couches and cars which should have ABS because they're normal street legal cars, but obviously they don't have it and they lock too easily. And that the handling, the F-force feedback basically has nothing in it, and the game, do not buy, because you have other games which simulate a Formula car much better. I would only buy this if you're a diehard F1 fan and basically have a cheap wheel or a controller and don't care. You want to just have fun and try and become Lewis Hamilton or Max Verstappen or any other. So I'll put it there. Now we come into Gran Turismo 7, which from what I've seen is a quite decent game. It's made by, I don't remember, but Kiloton is maybe that, but I'm not sure. But it's PlayStation exclusive. Hopefully it comes to the PC soon, because if that, I would buy it. Even though it might have a few problems with its handling, I've heard, the FFB not being the best, but it has a ton of cars, and speaking of that, I've heard that like the performance of anything isn't the best. Yeah, so yeah, it's alright. But the graphics are quite nice, and due to the Gran Turismo heritage, I would say I would buy it. It's not on the level of F122. And now we come into the game, which I would say I've been the most critical of, because we have iRacing. It's, what's it called, marketed to professional racing drivers. And how do we know that? Well, to own everything in the game, you need, guess how much? $3,000, or roughly in my country 30,000 crowns, which I would say is a lot of people's salaries in this country. And so yeah, I would say this is a bit expensive, but if you want to get the similar content, I would say you can get it elsewhere for much cheaper. But due to iRacing, this is all my opinion, but due to iRacing having such high prices, I would say it's more marketed to people who want to be serious and who are professionals who earn a lot of money, like the ones with very expensive rigs, like Max Verstappen, who likes to play, and Lando Norris, who likes to play. So I would say, what's it called? Because this is a bit interesting, because I would play it, but I wouldn't buy it. I would put it here in do not touch, but this with iRacing I would say is do not touch, because I wouldn't say it's worth the money. This is my opinion, because you can get the same game and everything, you can get similar quality and even better graphics and, in my opinion, handling and FFB and everything in other games. Because I don't understand this. You have race cars with ABS, and this I've spoken with some people I know who have cars. I asked them, what if you have ABS and you want to stamp on the brake, should you lock up? And they obviously said, no, it's ABS. It's meant to make it so you don't lock up. So my question to iRacing developers and people who love iRacing is, why do you lock the brakes up when you brake when having ABS? Because it might be a different thing for race cars, but I would say it's so different because you've never basically hit 100% in most cars in iRacing from what I've seen. And in my opinion, that is not super realistic, and I know I've spoken about people not driving big cars and not knowing what's realistic, but I would say it's not realistic from what I am then, from my experience of watching different race cars and things, and also when we think about that the graphics are not the best, and obviously if you and the FFP has been really bad in the game because I think it runs at 60 Hz. For example, Assetto Corsa Competizione runs at 400 something, I think, or just 400, and the CSL DD can up to 1000 Hz. I've heard from Armin, I think he said. So yeah, you need a special software for that, and the same with the Assetto Corsa Competizione to get the seat of pants effect, the rear going out, but I've tried to fix it with ACC, but I couldn't. So that's mostly it. And then we come into Richard Burns Rally, which a lot of people are saying it's a most realistic, and even though I've said they like it the most, but I would put it in would buy because I played it a little bit. It feels a bit odd. The graphics, which is a medium-sized part of everything, I would say is not the best because it's a very old game, but you can get it for free. So I mean, I would buy it, but I wouldn't play it. Sort of, if I had somebody to play with, I would do it. And now we're coming to another game which I've complained quite a bit about, and that's R-Factor 2. So it's made by Studio 397, currently owned by Motorsport Games, which is a whole nother kettle of fish, which I will talk about a little bit. But before that, yes, Studio 397, highly regarded as the most realistic tire physics, even though you can slide the car at high speed and at unrealistic amounts, and you have like a lot of metas in setups which aren't fully realistic, which I haven't heard from AMS2. And for example, another game which has with what's it called setups is Assetto Corsa Competizione with the Porsche 911 GT3 model 991.2, I think that's correct, where you can put the brake bias at less than 50, which means the rear brakes more, which I've never heard of. I spoke with somebody, the same guy I know who knows a lot about cars, and he said that's utterly unrealistic. And then I said to AMS2, when I drive similar car, just a 1 year older Porsche, I can push it down to maybe like 56 compared to 60. So I wouldn't say it's the best. But then the base game costs like 30 euros. It has mods for both cars and tracks, which is good. Only one problem is if you want to buy official cars from them and packs and everything, it costs a load of money. I think it's roughly, what's it called, iRacing prices. But I own the base game, and I would say would buy because the base game is quite alright, but I wouldn't buy any DLCs. So maybe it goes down to here. But I would put iRacing in front of it due to R-Factor's 2 management motorsport games, which, if we speak about it, it started at the start of the year, it started at $30. Now it's down here at roughly a bit less than $1. So what's happened? Well, management, apparently it's only make money quick scheme. If you want to know more about it, just watch Austin Ogonowski, I think he's called, his videos. So yeah, I think it's bad management. Don't think it will be up for much longer if motorsports games don't do anything about it. So I will put it down there. And wait, I just remembered a game which I forgot to put in. The game I forgot to put in was Kartcraft. I can't change this, I think, but I will put it around would buy because it's a karting game with Unreal Engine 4. I think it's Unreal Engine 4, I think it is. So I will put it here would buy because it's only karts and it doesn't have the biggest game. But now I've spoken enough about R-Factor 2, let's go to Race Room. So it's developed by Swedish developers, I don't remember the name of them, But I've played the game in a full motion rig, which was quite fun before the big update with FFD, and I've driven it after, and I would say it's quite alright. I will put it in wood play because like iRacing, it doesn't have the best graphics. But I've used a reshade, I think it's just called reshade.ini or something like that with it, and the game looks decent, I would say. A bit what's it called, the details are not the best, and what more do we have which isn't the best? Yeah, just mainly the graphics, but the handling is quite alright. The FFP I would say is not the best, but it's decent. Now we come to WRC generations, and I played WRC 9 before I bought it, and it was very fun. Got like a top 5 time around Karlstad Arena on the Swedish rally. Then I got the top 2, second best time in WRC 10, and this WRC generations will be the last game developed by Nacon and Kiloton, I think it is. And they'll have most rallies they have developed except what's it called, Rally Australia I think it is, and Rally China, and maybe one more, but I don't remember. But it's, yeah, I've heard it will have better graphics than WRC 10, will have better handling than WRC 10, will have a lot more cars, a lot more content. So I will put it in could be made, because even though it might just have rally cars, rally driving is one of the most fun forms of racing, I would say. But still, it has decent graphics, much better than these. Doesn't have any bugs and any with handling like these. And it has good management, doesn't cost a bucket load of money, and is made by Codemasters and EA. So I would say WRC Generations is very good. But we'll see what Codemasters do with it. But what do you think about this list? Comment down below, and whilst you're down there, hit the like button and subscribe. And my next video will be on Reddit reacts on the American Grand Prix. So hopefully I will see you then. But before then, I've been Racer Legend, you've been my amazing viewers. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.